It would become the silent, unblinking witness to a horrifying betrayal, capturing a secret so dark it would shatter a family, expose a hidden world of terror, and spark a desperate international manhunt. This is the story of Sheylla Cabrera, a devoted mother of three whose sudden, baffling disappearance unraveled a secret life of abuse, and how a chilling piece of grainy footage revealed the awful, undeniable truth of her final, tragic moments. On August 12, 2024, 33-year-old Sheylla Cabrera, a woman whose life was a constant buzz of phone calls and messages with friends and family, went silent. The sudden void was immediate and terrifying. Those who loved her were gripped by a growing dread, praying for a simple, rational explanation. But what that small, unassuming camera lens captured in the dead of night wouldn't just solve the mystery of where Sheylla had gone. It would unmask a killer's frantic attempt to get away with murder. The search for Sheylla was about to become a search for justice, a desperate race against time that would cross international borders and expose the devastating reality of a sacred promise, violently broken. To the world, 33-year-old Sheylla Cabrera was a vibrant, fiercely dedicated mother whose life revolved around her three young sons. Friends described her as the beating heart of her social circle, a woman who spoke of her children with an overwhelming and infectious love and pride. She was an active and beloved member of a tight-knit moms group in Lancaster, known as a dependable and kind friend, always ready with a supportive word or an easy laugh. She and her husband, Sheylla Cabrera Cornejo, were both originally from Peru and had carved out a life for themselves and their children in Southern California. From the outside, their apartment in the 500 block of Lancaster Boulevard looked like any other family home, a place of warmth and love. But behind those closed doors, a much darker, more sinister story was unfolding, one of pervasive fear, suffocating control, and escalating violence. While Sheylla projected an image of a happy, thriving mother, those closest to her knew the painful, terrifying truth. She was trapped in a deeply abusive relationship. Her mother, Helga Rosillo, would later reveal the profound torment her daughter was forced to endure. Sheylla had confided in her that Sheylla was not just psychologically abusive, but physically violent. He'd hit her, mistreated her, and in one particularly disturbing confession, Sheylla told her mother that Sheylla had even slapped their youngest child, who was only 3 years old. This wasn't a new problem, but it was getting worse. Friends alleged the abuse was a dark, constant cloud that hung over every aspect of Sheyella's life. They claimed the final, fatal escalation was triggered by one of the bravest decisions a person in her situation can make. She told her husband she wanted a divorce. In the days before she disappeared, Sheylla took another courageous step. She told her mother she was planning to go to the authorities and file a formal domestic violence report against her husband. She was preparing to finally break free, to protect herself and her children from the man who was supposed to be their protector. Tragically, it was a step she would never get to take. Her plan to find safety may have been the very thing that sealed her fate, as her husband, faced with the ultimate loss of control, allegedly decided to silence her for good. Tuesday, August 12, 2024, ended in a state of rising panic for Sheyella's loved ones. She was a creature of habit, a constant presence in the lives of her friends and family through texts and calls. When she suddenly stopped answering, the silence was immediate and deafening. As hours stretched into a full day, a chilling dread began to set in. This wasn't like Sheylla. She would never willingly be out of contact for so long, not with 3 young boys relying on her. Her husband, Sheylla, had an explanation, or rather a series of conflicting explanations. He told some friends and his mother-in-law, Helga Rosillo, a story designed to sow confusion and buy precious time. Sheylla had been taken away by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE agents. To others, he spun different lies, claiming she had run off with another man or had been in a terrible accident. But those who knew the grim reality of Sheyella's marriage weren't convinced for a second. Their deep concern quickly sharpened into suspicion, and it pointed squarely at one person, Sheylla. That same day, August 12th, an official missing persons report was filed with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The formal search for Sheylla Cabrera had begun. As deputies from the Lancaster station began interviewing those closest to her, a dark and disturbingly consistent theme emerged. Friend after friend, family member after family member, all voiced the same terrifying fear. Sheylla was in an abusive relationship, and they believed her husband was directly involved in her disappearance. They passionately urged investigators not to believe his fabricated stories and to immediately consider the possibility of foul play. Their pleas were fueled by a desperation that, tragically, was more than justified. It quickly became clear to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department that this was no ordinary missing person case. The overwhelming and consistent accounts of domestic violence from friends and family were so disturbing that detectives suspected Sheylla had met with foul play. The case was immediately escalated, and the Sheriff's Homicide Bureau was brought in to lead the investigation. Believing Sheyella's 3 young sons were also in grave danger, deputies entered their names into the National Missing Persons System. The first major break came on August 13th, the day after Sheylla was reported missing. While canvassing the apartment complex on Lancaster Boulevard, detectives discovered crucial surveillance footage from a neighbor's Ring doorbell camera. What they saw on that video was so chilling it instantly shifted the entire focus of the investigation. The grainy footage, captured in the pre-dawn darkness, showed a man identified as Sheylla Cabrera struggling with a large, heavy object wrapped in what appeared to be a blanket or window covering, dragging it away from the apartment. It was the horrifying visual confirmation of everyone's worst fears. Investigators now had a grim and urgent theory of what had happened. The object in the video was Sheyella's body. Based on the direction Sheylla was headed and other gathered information, they focused their search on the vast, rugged terrain of the Angeles National Forest, about 16 miles from their home. The Sheriff's Department requested assistance from multiple search and rescue agencies, including the expert Montrose Mountain Search and Rescue Team. For 3 agonizing days, these dedicated teams combed the treacherous canyons and dense, unforgiving brush. Then, on Saturday, August 16th, a team member spotted something down a steep embankment, an object that looked disturbingly similar to the one from the video. An investigator carefully made their way down to get a closer look. The grim reality was undeniable. The material concealed a body. It was Sheylla Cabrera. The faint hope her family had clung to was brutally extinguished. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office was tasked with determining the official cause of death, which was later revealed to be multiple stab wounds. But the man seen on video dragging her body from their home was already the prime suspect. There was just one enormous problem. Sheylla, along with their 3 children, had vanished. That small piece of consumer technology, a neighbor's Ring camera, had captured the silent, horrifying epilogue to a brutal and calculated crime. The footage was grainy, recorded in the deep of night, but its contents were sickeningly clear. It showed Sheylla Cabrera in the middle of a desperate and gruesome task. A neighbor would later recall seeing him acting strangely while cleaning out his truck around 2:30 in the morning, just hours before the video was taken. She said his eyes looked scary. The video appeared to show what happened next. He heaved and strained, struggling to move a large, cumbersome bundle. To investigators, the object's size, shape, and unwieldy weight strongly suggested it contained a human body. They were witnessing, they believed, the moments Sheylla Cabrera disposed of his wife's remains. The man who had pretended to be a concerned husband, who spun lies about IC and accidents to deflect suspicion, was now exposed as a cold and calculated killer. This video became the undeniable cornerstone of the case against him. When Sheyella's body was found in the Angeles National Forest, wrapped in material matching what was seen in the video, the chain of evidence became virtually unshakable. Investigators now had a timeline of terror that began with a deadly confrontation inside the family's apartment and ended on a desolate, lonely mountainside. By the time the chilling footage was discovered and its importance understood, Sheylla was already long gone. He had used the critical time he bought with his lies to pack up his belongings, take his 3 sons, and flee. Other surveillance footage even captured the family appearing to carry out their belongings as they left the apartment. The investigation had rapidly transformed into an international manhunt. Sheylla Cabrera had crossed the border, flying from the U.S. to his native Peru, with his and Sheyella's children in tow. With overwhelming evidence pointing to Sheylla as the killer, the investigation immediately expanded into a global effort. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department alerted their federal partners and officials at both the Mexican and Peruvian consulates. An international red notice was issued through Interpol, essentially making Sheylla a wanted man in nearly every country in the world. His escape route quickly became clear. He had traveled through Mexico before boarding a flight to Lima, Peru. When he arrived at the airport in Lima with his sons, he was briefly questioned by Peruvian authorities. In a moment of intense and tragic frustration for investigators back in the U.S., a formal arrest warrant had not yet been processed through the complex international channels. With no legal grounds to hold him, they questioned him and had no choice but to let him go. His children, thankfully, were taken into protective custody, ensuring their safety and ending their harrowing journey with their father. Back in Los Angeles, the legal process was moving at maximum speed. On August 21st, the LA County District Attorney's Office formally charged Sheylla Cabrera Cornejo with 1 count of murder, including a special allegation of using a knife. The very next day, they filed an extradition warrant to have him arrested and sent back to the U.S. to stand trial. Sheylla remained at large in Peru for a few more days, but the pressure was mounting. His face was on the news in both countries. The manhunt came to a surprisingly quiet end on August 27, 2024, when Sheylla Cabrera Cornejo walked into the Interpol headquarters in Lima and surrendered. The National Police of Peru released a video showing him in handcuffs, his time as an international fugitive officially over. He was placed in custody to await the complex legal process of extradition back to Los Angeles, where he would finally have to answer for the murder of his wife. With Sheylla in custody in Peru, the focus shifted to 2 critical objectives: bringing him back to the United States and caring for the 3 young boys who had lost their mother at the hands of their father. In a coordinated effort between international authorities, the boys were quickly brought back to Los Angeles and reunited with their maternal grandmother, Helga Rosillo, the very person Sheylla had confided in with her plans to escape just before her death. Thrust into the role of sole caregiver while grappling with the unimaginable grief of her daughter's murder, Helga's quiet strength became the anchor for her grandsons. "I'm very depressed," she told reporters, "but I have to be strong for my grandchildren." Adding another layer of hardship to an already unbearable situation, friends revealed that the grandmother was also a cancer survivor. In Lancaster, the community rallied in shock and grief. Vigils were held at Lancaster City Hall and at the apartment complex where Sheylla lived and died. Friends, neighbors, and local activists gathered with candles and signs reading "Justice for Sheylla," sharing stories of the kind, smiling woman they had lost and demanding that her killer be held accountable. Meanwhile, the legal process continues to grind forward. Sheylla Cabrera remains in custody in Peru, awaiting extradition, a process that authorities have stated could take several months. Once he is back on U.S. soil, he will face 1 count of murder. If convicted as charged, he faces a possible maximum sentence of 26 years to life in prison. The case against him, built on the chilling Ring camera video, forensic evidence, and the powerful testimony from those who knew of the abuse, is formidable. The murder of Sheylla Cabrera is a heartbreaking and infuriating reminder of the devastating impact of domestic violence. Her story, and the stories of countless other victims whose voices have been silenced, deserve to be heard. If you believe in seeking justice for victims and want to stay informed on cases like this, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to shed light on these important stories. The story of Sheylla Cabrera is a profound tragedy that unfolded behind the carefully maintained facade of a normal, happy life. She was a mother, a friend, an immigrant building a life, and a woman who was actively and courageously trying to escape a dangerous situation. Her story is a terrifying reminder that for many, the most dangerous place is their own home, and the most dangerous person is the one who once promised to love and protect them. But her story didn't end on that desolate roadside in the Angeles National Forest. It lives on in the determined fight for justice being waged by her family, and in the future of the 3 young boys now being raised by their heroic grandmother. A simple, silent witness, a neighbor's doorbell camera, ensured that Sheylla would not just become another unsolved missing person case, but a victim whose killer would be held accountable. The road to a final verdict is long, but for a family shattered by violence and a community demanding justice, the first crucial steps have been taken. Sheylla Cabrera will have his day in court, and Sheyella's story, though born of immense sorrow, will serve as a solemn and powerful tribute to her memory.